Here we are, ready to go.
Good to go. Okay. Just for the newbies that joined, I just want to say again that I'm an osteopath and Pilates teacher, and normally I would take a full case history and get your medical history from you first. So if you're joining all these moves, I can't do that obviously in this setting, but just please be really mindful and careful, because I can't look after you the way I would like to normally. And like I say, I'll answer any questions at the end. If anything's sore at any point, just stop and take a rest. But honestly, it's going to be super gentle. So there's going to be quite a bit of lying down, you'll be pleased to know. And we're going to start off in what we call the relaxation position in Pilates. I'm going to go over here. I'm going to bring my little mic. Hopefully you can hear me. And if you're joining in, I'll just get you to lie on your back with your knees bent in what we call the relaxation position. And this is where I want you to have maybe a head cushion behind the back of your head, because I don't want you to feel like your chin is too high or your neck is overly extended. So you want to have the weight behind the back of the eyes. That's what you're aiming for. And just take a few minutes. We'll take a few minutes to settle into this position, feeling the weight of your body into the mat or the floor, wherever you are. So in this position, your feet are going to be in line with your sitting bones. Your pelvis is going to be in neutral. I'm going to talk about that in a minute. And then the spine is going to be in neutral as well. And we're going to try and rejig things around so you feel that happening. So just take a few moments to settle in and let the weight sink into the floor. Now your pelvis is obviously here, and I'm just going to get you to put your hands on the front of your pelvis, on the 3 bony landmarks. So you've got your hip bones here, the prominences, and then further down in the middle, you've got your pubic bone. And if you put your hands on those 3 bony landmarks, they should feel level from the side, okay? So we're going to go through a couple of pelvic tilts just to assess that. So you can keep your hands there if that's helpful. Before we get moving, just tune into the feet. Make sure the whole of the feet, both sides of the feet are in contact with the floor. All 4 corners of the feet are in contact with the floor. So let's just take the pelvis into what we call a north tilt. So you're going to roll the pelvis towards you to flatten your lower back into the mat. And that way the pubic bone will come towards your head. So these are the moves I tend to go through if some people have never come to a Pilates class before. Okay, and I also teach this a lot to my back pain patients. So you're in a north tilt right now where the hip bones have sort of sank down towards the mat and your pubic bone is higher. Now you're going to allow the pelvis to roll through, it's neutral, and gently take it into a south tilt. So the tailbone is getting towards the floor and the back maybe might arch a little bit more. So just play around with that north tilt and south tilt, and really feel in your mind's eye how this feels in your body. Visualize the bones that are moving, okay? With the likes of pain and recurrent pain and chronic pain, our nervous system gets a little bit skewed as to how it feels, and we need to rewire that by paying a bit slightly different attention to it and trying to imagine what's going on is pretty helpful. So as you come into your north tilt, your abdomen should just naturally draw in without really bracing, and then we'll go into a south tilt again. Yeah, so just back and forth, nice and gently. And then settle into your neutral. So the neutral is the bit in between the north tilt and the south tilt, and you can check that by putting your hands on the bony bits. We're now going to do our east-west tilts of the pelvis, which can be a little bit more tricky. So I'm just going to show you right now. So you might want to glance up at the computer if you can't see me just yet. So the east-west tilt is when so imagine the pelvis like a boat. It's going to rock from side to side. As you let the right hip lift up, the left hip kind of sinks down. And then you roll back into your neutral and you do the same on the other side. So as one side of the pelvis and the hip draws down into the floor, the other will lift up and away from the floor. So feel that for a few moments, just rocking back and forth in your own time, no bracing, try and find the ease in the movement, efficient movement, we don't want any muscles gripping. And as, for example, you allow your right hip to drift up, more weight will be in that right foot. And then come through neutral, and the same will happen on the left side. So when you lift the left side of the pelvis up, the weight will get heavier in the left side of the foot. You're just rolling back and forth. And as you're doing that, just tune into your feet, the pressure changes in your feet, and see if you can make it so your knees stay facing in the right direction. What can happen is the knees can swing from side to side. You want to be able to tilt the pelvis from side to side without the thigh bones moving too much, okay? About being able to dissociate one part of the body while keeping the other part steady. And this movement, this simple movement, is what we use in our gait cycle. It's what we use in our normal locomotion, our normal walking pattern. So it should be a nice free exercise. So let's bring that back into neutral. In Pilates, we do a lot of movements involving the breath, and the breathing is just another form of movement, and we can be really good at it and be efficient, and sometimes we might not be very efficient. So we're just going to take a few very nice moments tuning into our breath. Okay, so with your pelvis in neutral, so you can take a little snapshot in your mind's eye as to how your pelvis feels in the floor. Your lower back is maybe lifted away from the floor a little bit, and then the rest of your body, your rib cage is in contact with the floor. Put one hand on your tummy and one hand on your chest, and just tune into your breath for a few moments. Don't take big breaths, just do your normal sized breaths for now. And you can use your hands, you might want to close your eyes and just sense where your breath is normally, naturally going. Is it going into your hand that's on your belly, or your hand that's on your chest? Take a moment to tune into that. So now we're going to start to see if we can direct the breath into different parts of the body. So let's just focus on the belly breathing side of things. So as you breathe in, can you expand the belly up to the ceiling? So when you breathe in, your belly will lift up into your hand. And as you breathe out, everything just relaxes. Let's just try a couple more like that. How easy do you find that? And then let's take the breath just into the upper chest. So as you breathe in, your chest is going to lift up to the ceiling, up into your hand. And of course, the rib cage is a large 3D structure. You've got your rib cage that extends all the way down to here, and your first ribs are right underneath your collarbones. They're really high up. And you want to be able to breathe into your front, back, and sides, using the whole 3D shape to breathe. So having your hands on your chest and your belly, gentle breaths. As you breathe in this time, can you focus your breath into the floor? So your back is going to expand, your rib cage is going to expand into the floor as you breathe in. And as you breathe out, just let everything go. Good. Now you want to kind of spread the load between all those areas. So it's not just one area doing all of the breathing. So when you take a breath in, can you allow your top hand, your bottom hand, and also feel the pressure going into the floor as you take a breath in. And then relax as you breathe out. Something to tune into throughout the day, checking where you're breathing, because if you're stressed, people tend to breathe into your upper ribs, which can contribute to neck pain and tension. And also, if we start to use the whole body for breathing, you'll be using your diaphragm to breathe, which means your abdomen will be getting a good massage during the day too. Okay, lovely. Now we're going to talk about a bit of centering with the body. So this is part of Pilates again. We want to be able to keep one part in place while and legs, and this is called the Greyhound exercise. It's a really lovely exercise to help regain a bit of length in the front of the hips. So if you've been sitting for a long time, if you've had years of sitting, this is going to be a really nice way to open up the front of the hips and to rebalance any tension in the back. Okay, so we're going to start with the arm movements. First of all, just to really break it down, remember this is going to be so gentle, okay? Take that little snapshot in your mind's eye to where your pelvis is and how your spine is lying on the floor. Raise your arms above your chest, palms facing forward. Now, as you start to take the arms towards the floor behind you, what's happening to the rest of your spine? Are you able to keep your spine on the floor? So you're not going to let any part of your rib cage or spine lift away from the floor, and your shoulders might feel tight, Just bring them all the way forward again. So we're going to add the breath into this part. Breathe in, send your arms up. Breathe out to start to send the arms towards the floor behind you, and they might reach the level of the ears. If you're very mobile, they might reach the floor. Everybody's going to be a little bit different here, but the main point of the exercise is that you're not going to let your spine leave the floor. And press your arms forward. So what can happen is, and you can keep moving, press your arms up and back. What can happen is that your ribs can leave the floor and flare towards the ceiling, and I might be able to stick my hand right in between your ribs and the floor. So you have to imagine my hand's there, you're not going to let me do that. Okay? So breathing in, send your arms up. Breathing out. So the arms are towards the floor behind you, and you bring one free hand and feel the abdomen. So you want to feel that the rib cage is in contact with the floor, but also that the abdomen has drawn naturally in towards the spine, in towards the floor. You've created what we call the greyhound shape with the abdomen. So this is the core muscle right here. This is the deep transversus abdominis muscle. As it contracts, draws in effortlessly, it creates this narrow shape here. And it keeps our spine and pelvis in a steady position. We'll just do one more. Breathe in, send your arms up. Breathe out, send the arms towards the floor behind you, and allow the abdomen to deeply draw in towards the spine without bracing. And let's bring the arms up to the ceiling. We're going to add in a leg slide. So the arms are up to the ceiling, shoulders away from the ears. Snap, take up that little snapshot again in your mind's eye. Is your pelvis in neutral? Is your spine in that lovely neutral position and relaxed? Breathe in to prepare. And as you breathe out, as you take your arms behind you again, just slide the left heel along the floor to straighten the leg. And let's just stay here for a few moments while we feel a few things. So we've created the greyhound shape with the abdomen. It's drawn in naturally. Press the heel away from you. Now put your hand on your hip bone here. This hip bone here is part of the pelvis, and you want to have kept it nice and steady and still. So as you push your heel away from you, can you keep this bone steady and still? It's a very small movement there. Now keeping the abdomen drawn in, breathe in and bring everything back to the start again. Can you do that without bracing in the abdomen and without letting the pelvis tilt? As you breathe out, let's slide the right heel along the floor, take both arms towards the floor behind you. What's happened to your ribs? Are they staying on the floor as they were, without lifting, without bracing the abdomen? Breathe in and draw everything back up again. Breathe out, release into your greyhound movement, pressing the heel away, arms come towards the floor. Breathe in to draw them back in again. Breathe out, single leg slide the right heel along the floor. And breathe in to draw them back in again. And continue that from side to side while I just cue a few other movements that you might want to feel. I'll just remind you that as you're moving into your greyhound, you're pressing the heel along the floor, which is going to help to open the front of the hip. We're going to transfer this into standing later. So I want you to really feel how this feels in your abdomen. As you take your arms towards the floor behind you, you might even feel the mid-back just start to give a little bit. You might feel the back of the neck start to lengthen a little bit and decompress a little bit. You want to find the ease in the movement. No tension at all. Make it look and feel easy. With this greyhound, you can, once you've got the basics and you can really feel everything, you can load this up and make it a very strong core stability exercise. But we want to really get the foundations and the basics completely perfect first before we do that. So we'll just do a few others and then we'll maybe progress one level up, just so you can feel it a bit more. So you can go into whatever pace feels good for you. If you feel good in the greyhound and you want to stretch that a little bit further and feel that more connected, you can do that. That's absolutely fine. I'll just go through the progression now. One progression, we're not going to do any more than that. As you breathe out, you single leg slide, you take both arms towards the floor behind you, and then you're just going to let the leg lift up by a couple of inches. And again, I want you to feel that drawing in sensation, no bracing in the abdomen. Leg comes down, draw back in, take a breath. Breathe out, single leg slide, Press the heel, feel connected into the mat and let the leg lift up by a few inches. Draw the leg back down, come back again. Let's just do one more to each side. Breathe out, lengthen, allow the spine to give and stay on the floor. Lift the leg up, adding a little bit more load to the abdomen and come back again. Last one, single leg slide, lift the leg, lower the leg and draw back again. Lovely. Okay, so arms are down by your sides again. I'm just going to make sure I'm not forgetting anything. Yes, we're going to do some spine curls next. This is an exercise that's pretty much in most of my classes, and it's definitely something I teach people if they have back pain. And I'll teach you the exercise, and I'll teach you what you might feel if you do have lower back pain at the minute and how you can tweak it to get around that. So I'll just move my arms so you can see. You can keep your arms here. I'm just moving mine out to the side so you can see what I'm doing with my pelvis. So first of all, I always think about my feet. Got both pads of my feet in contact with the floor. Spine's relaxed. I'm in neutral. Breathe in. As you breathe out, you come into your north tilt. So you're bringing the pubic bone up into your abdomen and your back is flattening. And then we're going to start to lift the pelvis up and the spine up away from the floor into a bridge. Breathe in at the top. And as you breathe out, can you roll the spine back down again sequentially so you bring every bone one by one back down to the floor. Rolling right through that lower spine before your pelvis hits the mat. Breathe in. As you breathe out, really draw your abdomen in, roll the pelvis towards you to flatten the back, and then start to lift the spine up into your bridge. Now, this is really good if you have to sit for quite a long period of time, because we're fully extending those hips. When we're sitting, our hips are really flexed. We get tight and compressed in the front of the hips. This is a beautiful way to open up the hips. Now, at the top of your bridge, can you do that little extra bit of a tuck at the top, a north tilt of the pelvis while you're in your bridge? This will then, you'll maybe feel your tailbone draw away from the back of your head and your pubic bone come even closer into your abdomen. That's going to really maybe give you quite a stretch down the front of the thighs. Take a breath. And as you breathe out, roll the spine back down again, but keep that tilt of the pelvis to really mobilize the back as you bring your spine back down again. We're going to do a few more. Come right through to your full neutral position. Take your time. Breathe out, north tilt. Feel how the pelvis rolls to you. And then you're rolling up bone by bone. At the top of the bridge, you might need to adjust your neck. Check that you've got no tension in the jaw or around the neck or in the shoulders. Do a little bit more of that tuck at the top to get a good stretch, lengthening, opening the hip joints. Breathe in here. At this moment, the abdomen's really relaxed and the back shouldn't hurt at all. If it is, then you need to lower down and tuck the pelvis a bit more into that north tilt. And roll back down again, bone by bone. We're going to do a few more. Come right through to your neutral. Take a breath. North tilt and roll up. Opening the hips at the top. Really might maybe feeling that stretch right down into your knees maybe. And then feel the feet in the floor. What pressure have you got in your feet? Is it the whole foot? Is it all four corners of the feet? Or have you gone to an edge of the foot? Can you make it so you're completely, the whole surface area of the foot is in contact with the floor? And roll back down again, bone by bone. We're going to just do one more, okay? So roll through to your neutral, big breath in. Breathe out, north tilt. Roll up. With ease, maybe feeling the legs warm up a little bit, maybe feeling the glutes warm up a bit, maybe feeling a stretch here. It's all good. Take a breath and then slowly roll back down again, bone by bone by bone. Really working to get that part of the lower back to open up. Quite often that gets stuck. So we have the option here to mobilize it ourselves. So coming into your neutral position, taking a moment to settle into your neutral position. So the next exercise I'm going to go through is, again, about what we call centering in Pilates. It's keeping one part still while we move another part using the least amount of energy possible. And it's a simple knee drop. And I just want you to feel how amazing the body is with this. I love this exercise, even though it's so simple. So hands on pelvic bits, make sure they're level. You can choose to have your hands, if they can reach underneath, very gently underneath your pelvis, but it's even better if you don't need to do that. So try it with and then try it without. Take a breath, and then all you're going to do is very slowly and mindfully is knee drop the left knee out to the side with control, without letting your pelvis move. So you're only going as far as you can without letting the pelvis tip up on that right side, and draw the knee back in. Breathe out as you knee drop the right knee out to the side. Breathe in to draw back in. If you can go no hands, that's even better, because I want you to really take that snapshot in your mind's eye about your pelvis. Knee drop one leg out to the side as the other knee stays steady and as the pelvis stays still. So you're stopping the movement before your pelvis rolls into that east-west tilt. And then the other side. And drop. We're just going to do a couple more, and I want to just tune into another little thing with you. Very, very, very subtle. Breathe in. As you breathe out, single knee drop the left knee out to the side, and maybe you'll feel the deep lower abdomen draw into that greyhound position again. Drawing in very subtly. Breathe in to draw back up again. Put your hand on your abdomen if you don't feel it. Breathe out to single knee drop the other knee out to the side. Maybe you'll feel a very slight tightening in the lower abdomen. Don't worry if you can't feel it, don't get stressed about it if you can't feel it just yet. It's very subtle. But that's what core stability is. It's very subtle. It should be effortless. Muscles should switch on and off, very importantly, switch off too, efficiently, so we can move efficiently. So I just like to always throw that in for people who have never done Pilates before, to show you how subtle but how powerful those movements can be. Lovely. We are going to, I'm just going to do a time check. So just take your time. We've been in this position for a while, so we're going to roll off and maybe come into this sideline position. I'm just going to check the time. Yes, okay. So we'll do a little bit of clam work, because quite often, I mean, there's so many reasons that back pain can occur. It can be sometimes a core stability thing, sometimes a glute activation thing. Quite often it's to do with the feet and the ankle, and we're going to definitely make sure we have time for some foot stuff at the end. And I'll talk to you about that later. But this is when you'll really need your head cushion. We're going to come onto the side and we're going to do a really a clam exercise, but we're going to tweak the position a little bit to make it a little bit different to maybe what you've done before. So I've got a few head cushions here, and you're just going to come onto your side so you're really comfy. So in this starting position, normally what happens with in Pilates, what we might call clam or oyster, we keep the feet together and we just lift the top knee whilst keeping the pelvis steady and the spine nice and steady. And this is a really good exercise. It just helps to mobilize the hip into this outer rotation, which is really important for walking. And you just want to allow the knee to float up and float down, and just check how that feels. You might not feel a huge amount of muscular energy happening, that's fine, but it's definitely rotating through the hip joint. Now, the clam I want to go through with you is slightly different positioning, which can be a little bit awkward, but we'll give it a go. You're going to keep the feet together, but just allow the top hip and therefore the thigh bone to draw forward, so that your knee is kind of overhanging the bottom knee there. And I've kind of put a little bit of a twist in my back, just a bit of rotation. So we've gone from knees together to top knee forward. And I'm going to get you to feel the muscles here. So if you feel up the thigh, the bony bit of the thigh, bony bit, bony bit, bony bit, then you come back and I've got a big soft squidgy bit there. And that's the bit that you want to feel. Okay, that's where the muscle is that we want to feel. So often when I'm trying to teach people movement again, if a muscle has been inhibited for any reason, sometimes it's really important to feel the muscle work to try and re-engage that muscle again, so that it becomes a more functional muscle for you. So the knee is forward. You're going to keep that kind of forward posture. Hold on to the muscles in the bum there, in the outer bum. This is your gluteal muscles. And then keep that forward position as you lift. And you might just feel the muscles tensing underneath your fingers quite nicely there, or not. It might feel quite different, it might feel quite hard. And we're just going to do a few more. lifting, and just imagine that you're lifting the knee from the muscles underneath your hand with ease still. If you're not quite feeling it, if it's quite difficult, maybe you could relate that to a back injury you've had in the past, or like I said, the repetitive postures that you might have to do throughout the day, or maybe even you've had an ankle injury on that side. Most people that I see with back pain on one side especially, it's because they've either really bust up their knee in the past, or they've had a bad ankle injury in the past, or they've got a foot that's just not functioning as well. The foot and the ankle and the hip, they're one thing, they work together. If one hip is stiff, then the foot is going to have issues too. Yeah, so nice and easy. Just do one more. You might be feeling it already. And then come back to neutral, and we're just going to go ahead and do the other side. So careful, pushing yourself up. Swing around and do the other side. And then we're going to do some work on our front. So you've noticed how that side felt. Now you're going to feel and compare with this side. So we'll do the basic position first. Feet together, knees together, just to see how it feels. And you're not going to let your pelvis roll at all. You're just going to lift and lower. So my left side is always a little bit tighter, so mine doesn't go up as high. I'm aware of it, and it's fine. But good to become aware of it. So we'll just do a few more nice, easy ones. And find the ease. Float it up with the least effort possible. And back down again. It might be clunky like mine. It's just a sign I need to stretch a bit more. And let's try this slightly different position just to see feel how it is. So the knee is going to slide forward. So the thighs are in line here, but the knee is overhanging as I've brought my whole hip and thigh forward. Feel into the muscle. So to find the muscle, you can just run up the bony bit of your thigh, feel the big bony bit there, and then mine turns a bit squishy and soft. That's where the muscle is. So once you're in that position, just check in with it. Take a moment to settle into the position, and then with ease, lift up and lower and lift and lower, and just register if it feels different from the other side. Can you feel the muscle positively pop up into your hand? Immediately, as soon as you start to lift the knee, does your muscle pop up into your hand? Quite often when I'm teaching people this, if the muscle has been inhibited, then the muscle might just switch on at the very end of the movement. And for me, that's a muscle timing issue because it's not switching on when it should. So you want this muscle to start the movement, initiate the movement as you lift the knee. You can make it happen with some thought. It can be that simple. So we'll just do a couple more. Take your time and just go into your full range. Really push that little bit extra into your full range there. We'll just do two more. It might already be quite tired. That certainly tells you that this might be a beneficial exercise for you to do. And rest. So I'm going to demonstrate an exercise that I often do in Pilates. And again, this is one of the really basic Pilates exercises that I like to teach a class, because you're going to be on your front, and I want you to watch me first before you do it. And certainly in class, it's normally an exercise that I'm very hands-on, making sure people do it in a really nice way, so it feels good in the back. We're going to be using our back muscles. So if you're sitting, I'm very guilty, always on my phone. So we tend to adapt this kind of rounded posture for too long. So like I said at the beginning, we are very adaptable creatures. If we sit and stand for this all day long, then our bodies will change shape. And over weeks, months, years, it takes a long time, but it will change shape. So this exercise is called diamond press, and it helps to offset that flexed posture. So like I say, I'll show you first, tuck myself in. So you're going to be on your front, and with every start position in Pilates, we want to find our neutral pelvis, neutral spine. So my head's going to be to the side so you can kind of hear me. But when you're doing it, I want your head to be centered. So your pelvis is going to be in neutral. Legs are outstretched behind you. And what you want to do there is just kind of lift the hip bones a little bit. So you've got that greyhound muscle in your deep abdomen just drawing in slightly. And your pubic bone is going to be that little bit heavier into the mat. Then I like to just tuck my ribs in a little bit more because sometimes it can be a bit flared. So I want you to just do a little bit of a caterpillar movement there just to kind of get things in a comfortable position, and your hands are just going to be either side here. If that's not comfortable, just have them out here. It doesn't really matter. So the back, the lower back is not going to move. You're going to keep that steady with your centering, with your greyhound muscle, and you're going to sequentially extend your spine. I'll show you. I'll show you some good ones, and I'll show you some not so good ones. Shoulders down away from your ears. Breathe in. As you breathe out, you lift the head, the nose lifts up the mat, and then you're extending your neck, then your upper back, mid back. Nothing into the lower back. And then I'm going to bring my breastbone back down, then my neck, then my head. I'll show you one more time. Lift the nose, extend the neck, extend the upper back, then the mid back. So I'm focusing on my breastbone, lifting up and scooping that way. Scoop that way, like that. And then I'm extending my mid back, and I'm not letting my back collapse. I'm keeping my pubic bone where it should be. So the other thing that can kind of go wrong that I like to prevent is the neck can extend loads. I could do, but that doesn't look very Pilates-esque, does it? You want to create lovely shapes. So you want to have a little bit of neck extension without bringing the back of the skull to the spine. You want to stay lengthened and lifted throughout. So let's give it a go. Come onto your front. And if this is really uncomfortable for your lower back and you can't really feel that neutral posture, just put a pillow underneath your abdomen, and that should really help. Feel in this position that you are still lengthening and growing tall from the tips of the toes to the crown of the head. Take a moment to settle into the neutral, where you are bringing your pubic bone a little bit heavier into the mat. A little tiny bit of activation in that greyhound muscle, the deep lower abdomen, and your hands are going to be either side of your ears. Take a little breath here, and then just start to slide the nose up the mat as you pick your head up. And then focus on that breastbone, scooping forward and up. Imagine my hand is in between your shoulder blades on your back, and you're gently softening your spine away from that hand. See if you can grow taller in your diamond press. Take a breath and then just come down again. Bring everything back down. Take a breath here, and as you breathe out, lift the head and extend the spine bone by bone. Lengthen the crown of the head forward. Now in this position, what's happening to your lower back? Are you able to keep it steady and still while you extend the bit above it? And then roll back down section by section. Take a breath, lift the head, float up into your diamond press. Check your feet. Are you lengthening through your legs? Is your whole body toned with ease as you come up into your diamond press? And then float everything back down again. And just continue that for a few more goes. Floating up, floating back down again. Lifting and lowering. We'll just do 2 more like this, then we'll maybe just load it up a little bit more with a slight progression. So if this exercise is enough for you, please do not do the next bit, but we're just going to progress it a little bit further because we've actually got plenty of time before we do our feet stuff, which is good. Lovely. So we're next going to add a progression called the salutes. So come up into your diamond press, where you are lifted and lengthened. There's no part of your spine that should feel compressed in this position. Your back muscles are working, your shoulders are down, and we're just going to see if we can keep our pelvis steady and still and lengthened into our diamond press as we lift our left arm up to salute the fingers to the forehead and lower back down. Take a moment to settle into your diamond press, and let's lift the right arm up to salute and lower. You might feel as you swap from side to side, your center, your abdomen having to work that little bit harder to keep everything nice and steady as you lift up into salute. We're just going to do 1 more to each side, lifting from the upper arm to really open the armpit and bring the arm up to the forehead with ease, if possible, if you've got that range there. Last one on the right side, lowering down and coming right down out of your diamond press. push yourself up. So really push yourself up into your now rest position. So because we've done quite a bit of extension there, if you're comfortable to come into a kind of child's pose position, then you can do that now. If you're not comfortable, then you can kind of come up into all fours and just rest your head down like this. But if you can, ask your hips, ask your knees, ask your ankles to fold, then that's really good for those joints too. So just resting forward. And slowly rolling back up again. Okay. So now's the time that I'd like to do a little bit of work with the feet. Now this is a talk about back pain and posture. And like I said before, often when I see someone with certainly one-sided back pain and recurrent back pain that they've not really known why it's happened, quite often in history there's some kind of ankle injury or foot injury in the past. So sorry for anyone who don't like feet. But I'm going to take my socks off and we're just going to do a little bit of toe yoga. So get comfy, either be on a chair or on the floor, whatever's comfortable for you. And just take a little look at your feet. And maybe while you're doing that, you can maybe think, have I done something to my ankle in the past that could have contributed to my back pain? Also, when it comes to when I'm assessing someone, if someone has, for instance, like flat feet, then often it's because their pelvis isn't stabilizing their feet. It's a whole, back pain is basically a whole body issue. So can you simply, keep your 4 little toes down as you lift just your big toes up. I can feel the brain power from here. Good work. And lower the big toes down. So that's what you're going to practice just for a few moments. Can you pick your big toes up and leave your little toes down? Now, sometimes you can get something called hallux rigidus, which means your big toes stiff. So if you're really struggling with this movement, because I can't see most of you, if you're really struggling with this movement, can you reach your big toe and just actively lift it up? If you don't have that movement, then maybe you can't do this exercise just as well. So are you finding that easier on one side compared to the other? And as you pick up your big toe, what direction does it go in? Does it go straight up or does it go to the sides? Does it go in towards your little toes? You want to be able to pick the big toes up in the center. You can do this standing as well if this is uncomfortable. You do have a seat. Yeah, that's good. Come onto a chair if this is uncomfortable. Perfect. Because this is a really important movement. And you might see too that when you pick up your big toe, look what happens to your arches. This is why I think the body's just amazing. When you pick up your big toe and you extend your big toe, and we should be doing this during our walking, normal walking gait, the arch is supported and lifted from those muscles. It's amazing. So now that we've done the big toes, can you keep your big toes down and just lift your 4 little toes up and lower and lifting up and lowering. Just practice that. And when you pick those 4 little toes up, are you still able to keep the main body of the foot on the floor? Or does the whole foot lift up to the side? Is it compensating for it there? So when we're looking about posture and how we are carrying our weight and how we're standing through our center of gravity, we want to have both corners of the heel in contact with the floor and the base of the big toe and the base of the little toe, a tripod of support. Can you keep that tripod of support as you pick the big toe up and then just the little toes, swapping from side to side? And then let's just pick up all 10 toes, splay them out as wide as you can go. What are those gaps like? How big can you make the gaps in between the toes? And relax. And go again. Spread and let go. You can get these amazing socks called, if you're struggling with this, they're called toe separators. And you put them on and your toes haven't, they actually separate your toes. They splay your toes. They look really strange. But they're really good if you're struggling with this, because when our foot reacts with the ground, it wants to splay to be able to then ping up into a rigid lever to propel us forward. And that's going to be important for our backs too. Just do a couple more spreading and letting them go. Lovely. So we're going to do a little bit of work in standing next to try and put this all together. We're going to do a little bit more work for the ankles, and then we're going to do some nice mobility work for the spine to finish off, okay? So if you can get up with no hands, even better. I'm just going to adjust my screen so you can see me a bit more. Okay. So standing, like with any start position Pilates, we want to find our neutral pelvis, neutral spine. So let's start with our center of gravity, our feet. Where is the base of support? Have we got that tripod of support from the base of the heel, so the whole of the heel, to the base of the big toe, to the knuckle of the big toe and the knuckle of the fifth toe. Lengthen through the legs, but not tense or stressed in the legs. Put your hands on your bony bits at the front, the pubic bone and the hip bones. What do they feel like? Are you in a forward tilt like this? Are you perhaps tucked? Can you find the bit in the middle? So we did the pelvic tilts at the very beginning of the class. Much easier to do those tilts on the floor than in standing, but it's quite good to be able to then practice that in standing. When you roll your pelvis into a tuck, what happens to your feet? I go onto the outside of my feet. When you allow the pelvis roll through into what would be a south tilt on the floor, but a forward tilt as we're standing, the feet might become quite flat. So this is what I'm looking at always when I assess someone, because if they've got flat feet, which can mean all sorts of things, is it because the pelvis is tilted forward? What can we do to maybe perhaps bring a bit more stability and realignment around the pelvis to make the bones more realigned so that the bones further away from that area and above are in a better position? If you put your bones in the right place at the right time, muscles work. Amazing. So, coming back to the feet and the ankles, we're going to simply do some mini knee bends. Okay, so if you've had any Achilles problems or ankle injuries, you might find this a bit tricky on one side more than the other. And quite good to look in the mirror while you're doing this too, or just look down at your knees. And so this is putting what we call dorsiflexion through the ankles. So I'll show you from the side. Can you see my feet? It's so small. I need a big screen. I'm going to let that down. So you might not see my head, but that's fine. You don't need to see that. So my feet are facing forward. All 10 toes are going to aim to face forward. Toes are going to relax, no gripping. And then I'm just going to bend my knees. And I'm just taking my center of gravity straight down. So not only am I bending my knees, but I'm really bending through the hips and folding through the hips. And my chest is right on top of my pelvis. This is really tricky actually for coordination and control, but very important if we need to transfer our center of gravity efficiently. For this, obviously, we need mobility in the ankles. What do they feel like for you? If you feel a real block in the front of the ankle, then don't go too far, but quite often it's just because it's tight around the back. How does it feel for you? There's lots of pops and clicks coming from my end. That's no bad thing. And I'm aiming to just send my sitting bones straight down to the floor as my knees just bend and my ankles bend too. What happens to the weight in your feet? Do they flatten? Do they go out to the side? Can you keep that tripod of support the same as you simply fold at the hips and knees? And crucially too, the knees go straight forward. They don't come in the way. If we're talking about really good alignment to begin with. No toe gripping. Nice and balanced. Good. Again, just trying to maybe bring some awareness around possible restrictions you might not even known you had. So we're going to finish off with some lovely side bending in the spine. And and maybe a roll down or two, and then we're going to do that greyhound in standing to finish off, just so I can transfer the floor work exercises into a more functional thing for you to think about. So we're going to do a lovely side reach exercise, one of my favorite exercises to ease off the spine. Okay, so arms lengthened along down by the sides. You got your tripod of support, you're lengthened. Feel that the front of the body is the same length as the back of the body. Raise the arm up. Then you're going to side bend the head over, and then side reach the spine up and over, as if someone's pulling your wrist up and over towards the corner of the room. Pelvis is staying steady and still. See if you can now lengthen that whole side by pressing the foot down and reaching up. Take a big breath in. And then return to standing, float the arm back down again. Breathe in, send the arm up without letting the spine move. So again, we're dissociating. Side bend the head and side reach the rest of the spine up. Up and over. You're trying to lengthen at the same time, so see if you can grow tall as you side bend. Lovely. And then return to center, floating arm down. We'll just do one more to each side. Breathe in. And I'll just show you a quick one that's not growing taller. That's not growing taller. So side bending first, and then you're lengthening up and really stretching up and over, lifting from both sides of the spine. Return to center, floating arm down, last one. Breathe in and out. Reach, 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 reach. Lengthen, lengthen, lengthen. And return back to center. We're going to finish off with a roll down, and then I'll answer any questions if I can. Excuse me. So with back pain, especially, there can be a bit of, with chronic back pain, recurrent back pain, there can be an issue with fear avoidance behavior. And quite often, that fear avoidance can come into this bending position. So the back should bend forward and back without any pain. And often it's the fear around it that stops us from doing it. So we're going to do a really mindful, you can watch me for the first one. We're going to do a really mindful slow roll down to see if we can sequentially again fold forward. So taking a breath in, as you breathe out, send the head forward first. Then you're softening the chest forward and down. And as you start to roll through the spine, just like what you did in your spine curls earlier, your abdomen draws in to open the lumbar spine, and you're just going to slowly bend forward through the hips. Take a breath in here, and as you breathe out, activate the backs of your legs to start to pull you back up again. And you're returning to your stance position section by section. It's finding that full control and feeling it in your mind's eye. Let's do one more together. Breathe in, grow nice and tall. As you breathe out, send the head forward first. Roll the spine. Imagine the bones separating one section at a time. As you bend forward further, lift that lumbar spine up to the ceiling. Maintain support through your what's a C-curve shaped spine. Now you're folding through the hips. What's that tripod of support doing? No toe gripping. Breathe in here. As you breathe out, send the sitting bones down to the heels. Start to draw everything back up again. And stand nice and tall. Lovely. I'm going to come closer now so I can answer any questions. I hope that was all okay. I wanted to keep it really basic, really steady, no big movements, because we need to practice those basic movements first before doing the bigger movements like full cobra, which could be such a lovely exercise. But like I said, because I don't know what your spines are like and what sort of injuries you've had, so I wouldn't have wanted to do that. So I've got two